system is failing. We're going to have more homelessness, more unemployment, and the government has to print more money. It's a command and control economy where the government tells you everything. I just don't trust our government. And they're going to have to start printing pretty quickly. And the more they print, the less value, purchasing power the dollar has, or the loonie, or the yen, or the peso. People are talking about inflation. I think we're in depression right now, and we're going to be the biggest depression in world history. In the 1970s, that's when the world was changing. The biggest bust in the history of the world is coming up. It's pensions. They trusted the government. They trusted their pension would be there, and it's going to go bust. And that's us. We get crushed.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Bearable Bull here. And I got this aggressively average content for you today. As ladies and gentlemen, I'm extremely excited to let all of you know that the free course I've been working on for every single one of you is almost completed. And I'll be announcing once it's up and available for every single one of you to consume to help maximize your crypto success. Stay tuned for it, my friends, as I've been working really hard on it. Now, what I discussed in one of my previous videos is finally coming to light. Look at the predictive programming and the narrative they're trying to build, as they're stating a traveler from Japan has tested positive for COVID. New variants running rampant again. Ladies and gentlemen, the very real possibility of new lockdowns are possible. This is a 110% cover for the financial catastrophe and financial agenda they have. And this is only going to continue. Even Luke Belmar is discussing when they try to lock us down again. Your opinion won't matter, and they'll force digital to track and monitor your obedience. Social credit, digital IDs, CBDCs. They've already been accelerating this agenda and you guys know it. You either get rich enough to tell them to fuck off, or it's 14 boosters a day for you. The choice is yours. And that's why I'm in this digital asset, because I think it's the opportunity of a lifetime to be able to get out of the system they currently have us in. Keep that in your minds. We have one shot to get out. Here, we also have rumors that XRP is going to be listed on Robinhood by the end of the year. And while it is only a rumor, what I do want to stress is that Robinhood is a powerful opportunity. And getting listed on Robinhood would, in my opinion, help pinpoint when the top of XRP's potential bull run could be. Robinhood is the exit liquidity the billionaires and multi-trillion-dollar institutions need. Robinhood is an app for retail investors to use to invest in different digital assets, crypto, stocks, etc. And what you need to know is that retail investors are always exit liquidity for the big boys. Keep that in your minds, and you'll always be one step ahead. Now, we have more coming out of the Brics Summit, and this is, in my opinion, one of the big keys in the Brics meetings. Please take a listen, and then we'll discuss it.
New Delhi Professor, thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Thank you.
Now, sir, I want to begin by asking you, what would you say are some of the key focus areas for India at the Brics Summit?
Well, I think the current Brics meeting is considering the expansion of the membership. Last July, there was a proposal from Iran, Saudi Arabia, and also Argentina and other countries like Indonesia, Turkey, so on and so forth. They have been reflecting on joining the Brics meeting. And so this is number one item that is there. Second, of course, is the Ukraine conflict has resulted in a lot of turbulence in terms of the energy prices and food and fertilizer. Energy, if Saudi Arabia, the largest producer of oil and gas, if it joins the membership, then it would further strengthen the energy producing countries bloc within the BRICS. It also has the largest number of consumers like China and India in terms of the consumption, the second and fourth largest consumers in the world. So producers and consumers of energy in the BRICS. So that is a second item. Third, of course, is the relative decline in the BRICS economic growth rates and the possibility for expansion of the restructuring of the Security Council as well as the Bretton Woods institutions like the IMF and World Bank, voting rights. That are the third item on the agenda. And of course, there is rating agencies' role that BRICS is considering. So these are some main items.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, that last point at the end was absolutely important and too many people missed it. The restructuring of institutions like the World Bank and IMF. The BRICS are looking to make a seismic impact when it comes to the future of the monetary system. And here is yet another clip of them talking about a diversification of payment systems, or even having a digital payment system. This is the world we're heading into, and right now, it's accelerating in real time with the narrative of this health crisis round 2 building. The perfect storm is at our doorstep.
So you've talked about investment in big infrastructure projects with Belt and Road. You've talked about digitalization. I'm wondering, might this summit make a big step towards trade de-dollarization? And if so, what impact that might have?
Well, certainly, I think the global South countries, the BRICS countries have suffered quite a bit of this unipolar world. And I think that is really, we're seeing a deglobalization going on. We are seeing the multilateral organization has been set back by certain countries, WTO and all those multilateral treatment. And so I think now it's high time that BRICS countries, and together with the rest of the world, to work together to safeguard multilateral system. But also we need some innovations. We can just not put all the eggs in one basket. But so I think they have some diversification of payment system, or have a bit of digital payment system, which is fine. I think BRICS countries should have some experiment on that.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, what's being broken down in real time is an inflection point where every crisis, every currency, every new revolutionary technology is going to meet. Every conflict in the world is going to be exacerbated. And we're going to need to have a monstrous solution or face physical repercussions. Fundamentally speaking, there's no going back from the point we're at right now. We're either going to have massive conflicts or mass resolution. I'm going to cap off this video for today with one of the best and most thorough, in-depth explanations of what's going on with the BRICS nations right now. And I feel like after the end of it, you're going to really see how this impacts not just the XRP community, but the entire planet. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Bearable Bull here. Thanks for tuning in. As always, I appreciate every single one of you. Now I'll be back tomorrow with another video.
24 hours, Putin and China will change everything. Yes, tomorrow a BRICS lightning bolt will shock the Western hegemony that's been ruling the world for decades. The Western media is totally ignoring the story, by the way, because they don't want to admit what's about to happen. Goldman Sachs, though, understands it, and they believe that by the year 2050, the BRICS nations will dominate the global economy. So on Tuesday, yes, tomorrow, the BRICS summit officially kicks off in South Africa. This is the first face-to-face BRICS summit since the start of COVID, and we are about to witness a rebalancing of the world order. The agenda items at this summit are massive. The currency, yes, a new currency, trade, military cooperation, AI, microchips, oil, all of it, infrastructure, rail lines, shipping. This is a big, big deal. And the United States, I guess, didn't get an invitation. The British didn't get an invitation. Germany isn't welcome. Is the game over for the Western hegemony? Well, the writing is on the wall. Now, for those of you that don't know, BRICS stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And it started out small over a decade ago, and now it's become the greatest threat to Western power that we've ever seen. And I'm not talking about military power here, which we'll get to in a second. I'm actually talking about economic power, oil power, computer power, trade power, the greatest weapons of all, not those bombs. Now, the top of the agenda is the United States dollar, squarely in the crosshairs. Here's how Foreign Policy magazine headlines this moment. A BRICS currency could shake the dollar's dominance. The de-dollarization moment might finally be here. Really? Is it true? After all, talk of getting rid of the US dollar as a reserve currency goes back to the 1960s. Here's the New York Times. In 1968, talking about France trying to separate itself from the US dollar. Yes, French President Charles de Gaulle versus Lyndon Johnson. That's how old this is. That's how far back this goes. This isn't new at all. But now we are at a tipping point. Brazil's president, Lula da Silva, says that every night he asks himself why all of these countries have to base their trade on the US dollar. Can you imagine every night before going to bed, that's the thought that you have? That way he does. Well, now they don't. A gold-backed currency that stands as the backbone of a new BRICS currency is being rolled out in earnest. Brazil, Russia, China, India, South Africa, trading oil, computer chips, minerals, and settling those transactions in a reserve currency that has nothing to do with the US dollar. All of the previous meetings of these BRICS nations have been leading up to this moment in South Africa.
BRICS countries are home to more than 3.2 billion people, around 40% of the global population. None of the bloc's members is in the G7, the group of 7 advanced economies. To increase its influence, BRICS is considering bringing new members into the fold.
Just look at the trade between the BRICS nations. There's a massive financial surplus. The BRICS nations have a trade surplus. Brazil just hit a record trade surplus. So why would they want to settle these transactions with US dollars? Doesn't make any sense. Meanwhile, Europe's trade deficit has hit a new record, nearly $500 billion trade deficit. Which side would you rather be on? Of course, this isn't happening overnight, and there are big impediments to a BRICS currency. The biggest issue right now is that if Russia wants to import things from other countries that are not named China, they'll likely have to settle it in US dollars if they want to import those items. But what if more countries want to join BRICS and ditch the US dollar? Then there's safety in numbers, and the number of people you're doing imports from are part of your BRICS conglomerate. In fact, other countries are noticing and beginning to join. At this summit, Russia and China are expected to approve the new applications of a bunch of new countries into BRICS. Algeria, Bahrain, Egypt, Iran, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, just to name a few. They've all submitted requests for membership to be a part of BRICS. And the Turkish government has expressed an interest in joining the group. Those are just a few of the names. But wrap your heads around this one. More than 40 other countries are now vying to join BRICS. 40.
Samita, what are you hearing about just how much bigger BRICS could get?
Well, we've heard from leadership here at the BRICS, this Foreign Ministers BRICS Summit, that at least 19 countries have expressed either formally or informally interest in either joining the BRICS grouping or even having involvement with the BRICS Development Bank, which really is aimed at investing in the global south, in developing nations to boost their economies. And this is one of the reasons that BRICS is becoming increasingly attractive to developing nations.
BRICS now accounts for 31% of global GDP. And just a few months ago, they overtook the United States and the G7 nations for GDP dominance. Goldman Sachs, once again, won't have to wait until 2050. It's already happening. Beyond a gold-backed currency and moving away from the US dollar, one of the biggest stories of this summit in South Africa is AI. Generative AI. It's one of their top agenda items. They're holding many meetings on AI this week in South Africa. BRICS wants to dominate AI. And who do you think will be the leader of the AI revolution? China. China announced that it wants to become the global leader in AI by the year 2030. They made this very public pronouncement. And I don't know if you know anything about China, but they are a communist country. And when a communist country makes a public pledge like this, it's all about prestige. So they must make it happen to save face. Yeah, there's no, we missed our target. They have to make it happen. Surprisingly, this was already well known in Washington, D.C., at the Pentagon, in fact. A major threat to America, China becoming the dominant player in AI. In fact, an Air Force cybersecurity whistleblower warned the Pentagon 2 years ago, said that we must make AI a priority or China will crush us. Here he is. His name is Nicholas Chalin. He warned everyone. No one listened to him. He saw what was happening, and because no one paid attention, he quit in protest. He quit because he thought it was impossible for the United States to compete with China on AI. In this article, he says, quote, "We have no competing fighting chance against China in 15 to 20 years. Right now, it's already a done deal. It's already over, in my opinion," he said. Chalin went on to say that the AI capabilities and cyber defenses of some government departments were at the kindergarten level, he said. Kindergarten. He recently said that China has kids as young as 7 years old starting on learning AI and machine learning. 7 years old. He says the United States doesn't stand a chance unless it doesn't get its act together.
Interesting to see that China is not wasting that kind of time, and they're not waiting for us to figure it out, and they're taking this very seriously, including having their kids starting at 7 years old be trained on AI and machine learning. So when you start thinking that kind of investment and really the understanding that whichever country is going to be leading AI and ML will be controlling the planet.
Let me repeat what he just said. Whoever leads in AI will rule the planet, he said. The BRICS nations, getting rid of the US dollar as a reserve currency, build a new trade and military security and infrastructure alliance, and dominating world's AI. Europe and the United States are shaking in their boots, and they should be. This week in South Africa is going to be a game changer, and we'll be watching it very closely here on this show.